A person can be roughly classified into one of three types according to the properties of his perception: visual, kinesthetic, and auditory. Some operate better with visual images, others are more sensitive to sensations, and others are especially receptive to sounds. Until now, we have been talking about slides that include visual and sensory images as the most preferable. In some practices of spiritual development, the technique of affirmations is used. A person mentally repeats the installation for a certain goal multiple times. For example, such an affirmation: I have excellent health, powerful energy, and spiritual comfort. I am calm and confident. Repeating such phrases out loud or to oneself is most suitable for people of the auditory type. But since there are no pure types, affirmations can be successfully used by anyone. Affirmations work the same way as slides, but they must be used taking into account the differences in the languages of the soul and mind. First, the soul does not understand words. If you repeat something mindlessly, it will not give you anything. The soul understands only wordless thoughts and feelings. Words can model thoughts and feelings to some extent, but this is not the same, because speech is secondary. It is much more effective to feel once and to repeat 1,000 times. Therefore, you must strive to simultaneously experience what you repeat. Secondly, a separate affirmation must be narrowly focused. You should not combine several goals at once. For example, the above affirmation, it would seem, is very good in content. It has everything you need. However, by repeating such an affirmation, you will not be able to evoke in yourself the whole range of required sensations. Thirdly, it is necessary to avoid monotony and uniformity. Each new series of repetitions should be accompanied by new aspects of experiences and sensations. For example, if you constantly repeat to yourself, I am calm and confident, these words will soon cease to mean what they convey to you. Confidence appears the moment the intention to be confident arises. Desire must be nurtured, convincing yourself for a long time. Intention, on the contrary, acts immediately. If you want to be confident, be it. And finally, you should not direct the affirmation to fight the effect without eliminating the cause. For example, there is no point in repeating, I have nothing to fear and nothing to worry about, if the cause of anxiety remains in place. In addition, the affirmation should be formulated in a positive way. Instead of endlessly repeating what you want to avoid, program yourself for the result you want to achieve. For example, it is better to replace the negative affirmation, I am not afraid and not worried, with a positive one. Everything is working out for me. Specify specifically what exactly should happen so that you have no reason to worry. Note that you need to say, everything is working out, and not everything will work out. If you formulate an affirmation in the future tense, the future will never become the present, but will turn into an oasis somewhere ahead. You need to adjust the parameters of your radiation as if you already have what you are ordering. Ordering mental comfort is also pointless. Mental comfort is a consequence of the agreement of the soul and mind on a particular issue. Agreement cannot be achieved in general, that is, by abstract self-hypnosis. You can only accustom and calm the soul with the help of a specific slide. Affirmations work most effectively only if you are in a zero emotional state, when there is no excess potential. The subconscious cannot be convinced or ordered. By including any emotions, you upset the balance. If you try to hammer the same thought into yourself with pressure, your soul will plug its ears. The most effective is dispassionate repetition in a relaxed state. Then perhaps your mind will reach the subconscious. And if the mind is trying to convince the soul with fervor, it means that it itself does not believe, and no repetition will dispel doubts. You will achieve nothing by putting pressure on the soul with the mind. It is impossible to form the determination to have against the background of an emotional upsurge. What you have seems ordinary and self-evident. You calmly and without insistence take yours, like mail from a mailbox. If you mistakenly take your assertiveness for the determination to have, then at this time you spin in place, holding hands with the pendulum. At one point, it will let go of your hands, and you will roll head over heels into the pit of your previous indecision. When your determination to have is devoid of the desire to have, the pendulum has nothing to cling to. As you understand, an affirmation is a kind of sound slide. You can use both video slides and affirmations. Together, they produce the best effect. Here is an example of such a complex slide. Let's say it contains a picture of your new home. You are sitting by the fireplace. The rocking chair creaks. The firewood crackles merrily. How nice it is to watch the fire. The rain and cold wind are rustling outside, but you are cozy and warm. There is your favorite treat on the table. An interesting program is on TV. You see all this, hear it, feel it, and say to yourself, I am comfortable. You do not look at the slide or listen to it, but live in it. A window into the space of variations. A person's head is constantly spinning controlled and uncontrolled thoughts. Some call it an internal dialogue, but in essence, it is a monologue. The mind has no one to chat with except itself. The soul cannot think and talk, it only feels and knows. The internal monologue sounds very loud compared to the silent sensations of the soul. Therefore, intuition manifests itself rarely and barely noticeably. There is an opinion that if you stop the internal monologue, the mind will gain access to intuitive information. This is true, but it is impossible to turn it off completely in a conscious state. Let's say you concentrated and stopped the flow of thoughts and words. There seem to be no thoughts. There is emptiness inside, but nevertheless, this is not a stop to the monologue. The mind is not sleeping at this moment. On the contrary, it is very vigilant. Only its task is different, not to think and not to chat. It seems to say, okay, I'll be silent. Let's see what you will do. This is the illusion of stopping the monologue. The internal monologue stops when the mind switches off its control, or at least relaxes its vigilance. And when the monologue stops falsely, it is on guard, and one might say, drowns out the feelings of the soul even more with its loud silence. If the mind switched off its control, your perception would fall into the space of variations. The real stop of the internal monologue occurs only in a dream or in a state of deep meditation. Practical benefit from this can only be obtained in the case of lucid dreaming, or if you have mastered the technique of deep meditation, in which the consciousness does not switch off. Lucid dreaming can be used as an interesting experiment and training of external intention. But is it possible to use the stop of the internal monologue in a conscious state? Here is one loophole, which is a narrow window that opens spontaneously in moments when the control of the mind weakens and the intuitive feelings of the soul break through to consciousness. Intuition manifests itself as a vague premonition, which is also called the inner voice. The mind is distracted, and at this moment, it is easy to sense the feelings or knowledge of the soul. You heard the rustle of the morning stars, a voice without words, thoughts without thoughts, a sound without volume. You understand something, but vaguely. You do not think, but feel intuitively. Everyone has ever experienced what is called intuition. For example, you feel how someone should come now, or something should happen. Or you have an unconscious urge to do something, or you just know about something. When there is a game of thoughts, the analytical apparatus of the mind acts as a referee. The mind quickly shoves any data on the shelves of designations so that everything is logical and rational. Stopping the internal monologue is when the referee's whistle is taken away and he is seated on the bench. The mind watches, but can no longer control the game. While juggling data, the mind takes short breaks. It sits down on a bench for a short moment and rests. That's when a window for intuitive information opens. At that moment, you fall asleep in the most natural way. Perhaps this is incredible news for you, but it is true. All people fall asleep many times during the day. They just don't notice it, because the window opens for a very short period of time. The dozing mind wakes up again and continues its monologue. Sometimes the impressions from what it saw in the window reach consciousness in the form of intuitive information. But most often, the mind does not pay attention to the short-term vision because it is very preoccupied with its thoughts. In a dream, the soul flies aimlessly. It can be carried anywhere. In a window that opened during wakefulness, unlike in a normal dream, the soul is focused on a sector of the space of options against the background of the context of the current thoughts of the mind. The context directs the soul's gaze to the corresponding sector of space, where it sees knowledge related to the current content of thoughts. As soon as the window opens, this knowledge breaks through to the mind. If the awakened mind pays attention to the impressions of the soul, that is, remembers the short flash of its dream, then it will receive what is called intuitive knowledge, information that seems to come out of nowhere, out of the blue. It is usually believed that intuitive insight is a spontaneous flash of insight of the mind. On the one hand, a solution suddenly falls on the mind out of the blue, and on the other hand, it is claimed that the mind itself found this solution. What is the origin of this knowledge from nowhere? In the ordinary worldview, this incomprehensible fact is ignored and discounted, supposedly, such is the nature of the mind. Based on the transurfing model, we see that the mechanism of insight has a completely different nature. The mind finds its solution through logical conclusions. And insight, that is, the missing link that cannot be obtained from the existing logical chain, comes from the space of options through the soul. Vague feelings of the soul manifest as anxiety, depression, or inspiration, uplift. All these feelings can be united by one term, languor. The soul seems to strive to communicate something to the mind, but cannot explain. Aching anxiety, a sense of guilt, a burden of duty, depression are realized as the worst expectations. In all these feelings, the unity of the soul and the mind is manifested. We receive the realization of our worst expectations as a result of the work of external intention. It is known that trouble never comes alone. With such parameters of radiation, we move to the worst lines of life, where trouble, as they say, is not alone. Sometimes an induced transition drives us into a wide black streak from which it is not possible to get out for a long time. Note that when this state of oppressed languor occurs, you immediately receive the realization of your worst expectations. External intention moves you to unsuccessful lifelines, where the situation worsens right before your eyes. Simultaneously with the premonition of trouble, the soul, in fact, at the same time, helps to realize the trouble as a result of the unity of the soul and mind in the worst expectations. Using the property of unity in the best expectations, you can turn the external intention to your advantage. To do this, transurfing suggests giving up importance, negativity, and consciously directing mental energy to achieving goals. As you already know, the parameters of mental energy are adjusted using slides in a conscious state. The same technique can be used at the moment of an open window if you manage to catch this moment. Intuitive knowledge and premonitions come spontaneously. In this case, the mind uses the soul's capabilities in a passive mode. It simply receives information from the sector where the soul accidentally wandered. So, our task is to intentionally evoke intuitive premonitions in ourselves. This is necessary in order to direct the sail of the soul in the right direction. How to do this? You must catch the moment when the mind is distracted. But now you do not need to catch the feelings, but intentionally induce them. That is, insert an instant slide into the window. The slide should contain the feelings that you experience inside the slide. By inserting a slide into the opened window, you do not receive information from the soul, but on the contrary, direct it to the target sector of space. If you succeed in doing this, your mind will touch the external intention. It would seem that the same effect can be achieved if you scroll the slide before going to bed, lying in bed. Then the slide will imperceptibly pass into sleep, and the unity of soul and mind will be achieved. However, strangely enough, this will not give anything. I will write an explanation in the next section. In the meantime, try to answer the question, why does it not make sense to spin a slide in a dream? Frame. There is a transitional area between events formed by external intention and events predicted by intuitive premonition. In other words, when you intuitively sense that an event should happen, you touch on it in passing with your thoughts, without thinking about it purposefully. Then this event, as a rule, really comes true, especially if the mind agrees with the soul's premonition. The question arises, did you simply sense that the event should happen? Or did your subconscious thoughts work as an external intention and induce this event? There is no clear answer to this question. Both take place. In a dream, everything happens more definitely. You only have to think briefly, or rather feel that events should develop in such and such a way, and this scenario is immediately realized. External intention in a dream works flawlessly. What does this give us? And it only gives us that we get the realization of the expected scenario in a dream. A dream has no effect on material reality. Virtual reality remains the same. Why does the external intention of a dream not realize the virtual sector? It may seem that this is due to the inertia of material implementation. Indeed, a dream in comparison with material reality is like a paper boat compared to a large frigate. A paper boat quickly flies away at the slightest breath of external intention. And in order to move a heavy frigate, a large sail and a long period of time are required. And yet, the external intention of a dream does not realize the virtual sector, not at all, because of inertia. You can spin your slide as much as you like even in a lucid dream, but this will not bring you one step closer to the goal. The fact is that in a dream, external intention performs only one function, to move the soul from one virtual sector to another. In a dream, the following happens. The mind sets the feather of the soul's sail in accordance with expectations, and the external intention instantly moves the paper boat to the corresponding sector. That's it. The job is done, and the mission of the external intention is complete. In reality, the work of the external intention is not completed with one breath. The wind of intention blows, but the frigate does not move from its place. If the unity of soul and mind is achieved, the sail is set in the right direction. The size of the sail depends on the degree of unity. The wind cannot instantly move the frigate to the desired sector. The parameters of the energy of mental radiation already satisfy the target sector, and the material implementation is lagging behind in the previous sector. Therefore, the wind of intention must work for a long time to realize the target sector. However, the external intention of the dream cannot move the frigate at all, for the simple reason that in the dream, only the feather of the paper boat is set, while the sail of the frigate is removed. The wind of intention moves only the paper boat of the dream, and does not affect the frigate of material implementation at all. Therefore, scrolling the slide in a dream does not contribute to the movement of material realization. The sail of the soul in a dream allows you to fly in virtual space, but has nothing to do with the actual movement of material realization. The only function of the slide in a lucid dream is to expand the comfort zone. However, this is not a small thing, so if you practice this, the slide in a dream will be an ideal means for expanding the comfort zone. In reality, your consciousness and subconscious are within the material world. The mind keeps the focus of the soul in the sector of material realization. As has been shown earlier, the mind constantly adjusts perception in accordance with the established template. Scrolling the slide in a waking state, you adjust the parameters of mental radiation to the unrealized sector. Depending on the degree of unity of the soul and mind, the sail is filled with the wind of external intention, and the frigate begins to slowly and gradually move to the target sector. The work of external intention will be carried out until material realization arrives at its destination. Do you see the difference? In a dream, the work of external intention is completed, but in reality, it continues. In a dream, the parameters are brought into conformity instantly, and that is the end of the matter. But in reality, the process is slow and gradual. When you are scrolling a slide in reality, you have the sail of the frigate of material realization set, and external intention moves the frigate, not the ship of the dream. Don't be confused by the boldness with which I use simple metaphors to describe all these complex issues. There are no more suitable analogies in the list of designations of the mind, but the essence is conveyed most clearly. The window into the space of variations, which opens at the moment of a short-term immersion of the mind into sleep, leaves the focus of perception in the context of the current sector of material realization. The frigate's sail in the window, unlike in a normal dream, remains in a raised state. If at this moment you insert a slide into the window, then a gust of wind of external intention will shift the realization a significant distance. The effectiveness of the window lies in the fact that the unity of soul and mind in such a state is manifested to the highest degree. The dormant mind releases its control and lets the unreal into its template of perception, just as it happens in a dream. The sail acquires significant dimensions, and external intention acts with the greatest force. This technique is quite complex, but you can try. You should start by constantly paying attention to your intuitive premonitions, observing yourself. Then you will understand that during the day, the window opens quite often. The mind gets tired of its control and chatter from time to time and loses its vigilance for a few moments. At this moment, you can deliberately insert feelings about the event that you want to induce. Precisely feelings, not verbal formulations. Imagine how you would feel when your plan was fulfilled. Scroll through the goal achievement slide in your head several times, and then take one integral imprint from the entire slide, a frame. For example, you sign a contract and feel satisfaction, or successfully pass an exam and the teacher shakes your hand, or come to the finish line first and tear the ribbon with your chest. This imprint will be the formula that you need to insert into the slightly opened window. The frame can be titled with one word, for example, victory, yes, it worked, or whatever you like best. This title will serve as the anchor point of the frame. Catching a window is difficult because it is your mind that does it, even though it is dormant, which means it wakes up and the window immediately slams shut. The skills will come with time. You need to have a strong intention and patience. First, you need to develop a frame of feeling the implementation of the event with the help of your mind. Let it actively participate in this development. Then, without trying to catch the window, scroll through this frame to properly understand for yourself what the final feeling is. Create a hook, an integral sensation, and then, at the moment the window is open, you can instantly insert a frame into it. You should get it so that the dormant mind suddenly realizes its sleepy state and immediately throws a frame into the window, not even having time to wake up. This is what the external intention will do when stopping the internal monologue. Repeated, albeit unsuccessful, attempts will gradually form a habit, and your mind will learn to throw a frame into the window automatically. The point of a frame is that the mind must have time to activate it automatically, without having time to wake up. However, if the frame technique is very difficult for you, do not get upset and leave it alone. This technique is given here only as information. If it does not work right away, then you do not need it. Work with regular slides and engage in visualization of the process. In any case, it will be very useful to acquire the habit of paying attention to windows. If you learn to catch the moment of an open window, intuitive insights will visit you more and more often. Summary. The mind has a will, but is unable to sense external intention. The soul is able to sense external intention, but has no will. The unity of soul and mind subordinates external intention to will. Your soul is no worse than anyone else's. You deserve the best. You have everything you need. You just have to use it. Stars are born on their own, but pendulums light them. Pendulums hide the fact that each person has unique abilities. The rule, "do as I do," creates generally accepted stereotypes of pendulums. Each soul has its own individual star sector. If the mind allows, the soul will find its sector itself. Allow yourself the audacity to spit on the stereotypes of pendulums. Allow yourself the audacity to believe in the limitless possibilities of your soul. Allow yourself the audacity to have the right to your magnificent individuality. Keep your joy to yourself and give your pride to the angel. A person's behavior and thoughts are determined by his dependence on pendulums. Keep your importance at a minimum and act consciously. Do not attach excessive importance to anything. Your importance is not needed by you, but by pendulums. Not efforts and not perseverance, but a conscious intention to keep importance at zero. Frail characterizes the individual essence of the human soul. The mind in pursuit of other people's standards increasingly moves away from the soul. By tuning the mind to the soul's frail, you will gain many hidden virtues. In a state of unity, the soul sings and the mind rubs its hands with satisfaction. The mind, thinking about the means, puts a fatal cross on a hard-to-reach goal. Allowing yourself to have is the main condition for the fulfillment of desire. Despite all the attractiveness, if something oppresses, the goal may be false. Do not trust anyone who urges you to change yourself. Discomfort manifests itself as a painful anxiety, burden, oppression. Peace of mind is not a clear yes. Peace of mind is a clear no. When thinking about a goal, do not think about its prestige, inaccessibility, and means of achieving it. Pay attention only to the state of peace of mind. Affirmation should be accompanied by appropriate feelings. A separate affirmation should be positive and narrowly focused. Direct the affirmation to the cause, not to the effect. Formulate the affirmation in the present tense. When the determination to have is devoid of the desire to have, the pendulum has nothing to hook you on. You calmly and without insistence take yours, like mail from a mailbox.